Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
First off, with Theresa May's cabinet in place, can we divine anything much yet about what the capital might expect? Ask Raphael Sheridan.
The intro marks London, awaiting the new Prime Minister, is already full to overflowing. Top of the pile, transport. Airport's expansion in the southeast predominates, with the seemingly never-ending delay over a decision on the third runway at Heathrow. Perhaps significantly, whilst in opposition, Theresa May predicted that a third runway would result in additional flights, increased noise and more pollution, insisting that the country needed a better Heathrow, not a bigger Heathrow. And recently elevated cabinet colleagues Justine Greening, MP for Putney, and Boris Johnson, MP for Uxbridge and South Ruislip, are both vehemently opposed to a third runway. Rail and the ongoing dispute between Southern and the unions is still causing severe transport disruption, with passengers protesting this week.
One way of sorting it out would be to hand it over to Transport for London, get the mayor to run it, given that the mayor's railways tend to be rather more popular than the government's.
The former Home Secretary's imprint on policing in the capital will be keenly watched, and the terrible events in Nice this week will further scrutiny on the capital's state of preparedness to deal with future terrorist attacks.
Theresa May will have to work closely with Sadiq Khan about the policing of London, because you can't get away from the fact that a big city like London is always going to be a terrorism target. It has been in the past.
With the makeup of the new cabinet overwhelmingly southern, it will be interesting to see whether the government will make additional efforts to support the north or focus attention on London and the south.
What a good starting off point, that, really. This sense of a southern axis, very much a London or southern axis to the cabinet, certainly. What does that say? What do you hope that might say about what priorities it might have?
Well, I think it's right that London has a strong voice. We are and continue to be the engine of the UK economy, and the fact that we have some very strong voices around the cabinet can only be good for the South East. But also, Theresa May has said that she's not going to. She wants to ensure that the whole of the UK benefits from her government. So I think we'll see a balanced approach, but clearly things like Crossrail, things like Heathrow will be high up on the agenda for the new Transport Department.
Yeah, do you think? I mean, you're just implying there that there's obviously a danger that you overcompensate because you might be perceived as too southern, which could have an adverse effect on the capital in terms of investment.
I think Theresa May's too clever to overcompensate. I think she'll ensure that there's a balanced approach. We've obviously got the Northern Powerhouse policy. That will continue under the new, under Sajid Javid. But in terms of the issue facing transport infrastructure in the South East, they've already been signed off to a large degree. I think we're just waiting now for the final decision on Heathrow, which I support the expansion, that's no secret. But of course, they have to go through the formal process, and I hope that they come to a decision soon.
I think I saw you raising an eyebrow at the suggestion about the Northern Powerhouse continuing, but associated so strongly with George Osborne, maybe not.
Some of my colleagues from the north of England are questioning who is the Northern Powerhouse Minister, and is it anything more than a George Osborne slogan? Will it continue? It's not clear yet.
What do you make of Theresa May's elevation and the cabinet with this southern bias it appears to have?
Well, I predicted weeks ago that it would be Theresa May. I thought she'd beat Michael Gove in a runoff. But anyway, if you have to have a Conservative Prime Minister, I'd rather have one who's competent and experienced and can try to deal with the crises the country faces at this time. And I also am pleased that we've got someone who voted Remain, who is Prime Minister, and therefore will try and bring the country together rather than being very divisive and controversial.
Does she worry you in any respect about what she's done before in terms of whether it's policing, immigration, community relations?
Yes, she was the Home Secretary who sent the Go Home vans down Ilford High Road in my constituency, and gimmicks like that, I think, are not to be continued.
Mike, do you feel that her tenure in the Home Office and her approach, when Mike references it, is going to put her slightly out of step with the kind of instinctive, liberal, more pro-immigration kind of stance that we have in London?
Well, I always found her actually very open to persuasion. If you can present a strong argument, I've always found that she listens whenever I've gone to see her. But I think in terms of the issues facing on things like security and policing, having Theresa May, who's been an outstandingly successful Home Secretary, particularly on those issues, in the driving seat.
She's going to know the Met inside out, isn't
well,
she?
she knows policing, she knows security, not just the Met, but she knows all of our policing, all of our security issues facing the country. So given what's going on in the world, having her in the driving seat, I think, is very reassuring.
What about infrastructure, though? And you mentioned Heathrow. Where do you think we are here? Do you know what her position is currently? Do you know what the Chancellor, Philip Hammond's position is currently? Both of them in that kind of Thames corridor?
No, I can't say I've ever discussed those particular issues with either of them.
What would you like them to do then now?
Well, I think I've supported HS2 and I've supported Heathrow, I've supported Crossrail. I think we have to continue to play catch-up with our European colleagues in terms of infrastructure investment. If we are to ensure that economic growth continues to be spread across the whole of the UK, then the Northern Powerhouse might be more broadly based than it was under Osborne, but I still think it will be delivering infrastructure and growth outside of London.
Do you think
as well.
the case for expanding Heathrow becomes greater because of the Brexit decision as well?
Well, I think if you look at looking at outside of the EU for economic growth, then the case for Heathrow is stronger. I also have no problem with Gatwick expanding. Let the two of them slug it out. But in terms of our major hub airport with the international links, that is Heathrow, and it will become increasingly important with our non-EU trade deals.
But with Theresa May from a constituency just outside London there, Philip Hammond also, both of them are said to have expressed concerns before about the effect of more air congestion. Boris Johnson, as we know, in Uxbridge, long-term opponent. Justine Greening. Do you think that's spelling, realistically, the end of the notion of a third runway Heathrow?
Well, there's a big difference between those who have expressed opposition in the past and those who have expressed concerns some time ago. I think certainly the comments from Theresa May are actually very old now. But around the Cabinet table, they will have to do what is best for the national interest. And that's what they're doing around the Cabinet, not their constituency interest. So I trust them that they'll make the right decision for the UK, which is to expand Heathrow.
Would you be confident of that being the case?
I hope so. For those of us in North East London, we've got Crossrail coming in, which halves the journey times to Heathrow. Frankly, Gatwick is a very remote and difficult place to get to if you're in the north.
And unusually here, I should point out you're in favour of expanding Heathrow as well.
I am indeed, and so are a lot of Labour MPs, particularly in the north and east of London.
I think it's a good opportunity she might take to kind of stamp a kind of personal imprimatur on and make that decision.
I know that, for example, to be fair to him, Sadiq Khan is in favour of Gatwick. But the key problem here is this has dragged on so long. A decision has to be taken. And I think there are real risks if you weaken the existing hub airport. And the people in the north of England and Scotland, members of Parliament for there, are all in favour of Heathrow. We have to think in the national interest, not just a few constituencies which happen to be under the flight path.
OK, let's move on.
I've been getting away with it.